Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Oh, hi, Marks. Yeah, get used to that opening because that's official from now on. Deal with it.
And we're here to give you all the WWE and AEW news from the last week. Before we kick off, we've had some releases recently. Blair Davenport, Isla Dawn, the Good Brothers, Ellering, Akam and Razor, all gone from WWE. And Sonya Deville being told that her contract is just going to be let expire within the next few weeks. Man.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does. Cedric Alexander too.
He's probably the one that's probably the most shocking, I would think.
Yeah,
Because he just recently re-signed too within the last year.
yeah, I think so.
I remember when the rest of the Hurt Syndicate was leaving, they were like, "Oh, it's Cedric too." No, you just re-signed, and then I mean, it's an interesting case with Cedric because now that his buddies in the Hurt Syndicate have that second shot at life that they're absolutely killing in AEW. Getting the entire band back together looks like it could be on the table, even if there's a non-compete clause at play. But would he go? Is the question, because he's married to Big Swole, and Big Swole, kind of infamously, was TK's kind of first big PR flub, because when he let her go, she had made it was in response basically to her making some remarks about how he dealt with talent of color and stuff like that, and he didn't take it that well, and he fired back with, well, it's just because your wrestling wasn't good enough, which is like, I mean, I had friends who were like big fans of Swole, honestly, so for real. So, I don't care what Cornette says, his opinion doesn't matter to me. I thought she was fine. I think that she much like Britt Baker would probably get lost in the shuffle of the current crop. Because it's a much wider, much more talented pool now than they originally started out with. But I'm sure that there are still bad feelings there. I'll have to say that her criticisms about him seem to have been completely unfounded from the get, or he has looked inward and changed his way, because there have been many people of color in prominent positions in the company since that point in time. So maybe there's a door that can be opened that allows Cedric to walk through it. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's an interesting case, and probably the most interesting case of that batch of released WWE superstars.
Yeah, yeah. I really don't like that anybody loses their job. I hope that some of them end up, finding a place elsewhere, AEW, ROH, anywhere really. Other news: Kevin Owens re-signed for 5 years.
Yeah, that one kind of caught me off guard too, although maybe it shouldn't, because they've been pushing him hard lately.
Oh, they've been pushing him hard lately, and he's doing fantastic work in the environment that he's given. So, it didn't surprise me really, but at the same time, it's like, well, if we hope to have him fight anybody in AEW anytime soon, that's not going to happen.
I mean, it's pretty well established that he's very good friends with the Young Bucks, so I assumed it would happen eventually. But 5 years is a long time, and he's going to be probably north of 45 before that deal expires. Probably. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, never say never. I mean, no. Like I said, Cedric re-signed like last year, and they still let him go.
Yeah.
Never know.
We could see. But Psychopathic Kevin is his best work, and he's doing it right now. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. At least not until after WrestleMania. No question. No. With that said,
if you're wondering where else you can find the Smark Foundation podcast, you can stream our show on Pandora, Spotify, and nearly anywhere else you normally stream your podcasts from, including our home at rss.com. We're also on YouTube, featuring not only full episodes of our show, but individual segments from each episode for easier content digestion. For any of those outlets, just type Smark Foundation Podcast into the search bar to find us. If you'd like to interact with us directly, we're very active on our new social media home, Blue Sky. You can contact the show at smarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social for general pro wrestling or podcast comments. And if you want to get to know us each a little bit more on a personal level, Aaron's personal account is at aaronsmark.bsky.social, and Adam's is at adamsmarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social. If you'd like to further support our show, you can visit our shop at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me to purchase various merchandise with our show's logo on it. Wear your SFP t-shirt or hoodie around town and spread the word about the show that strives to bring fans together around what's great about pro wrestling today, brought to you by a couple of everyday elder millennial wrestling fan dads. Now back to the show.
And we're going to move right into our lockup with this week's Raw. Raw on Netflix continues to do good. So he kicked off the show with Jey Uso. He comes out and he's like, hey, you know, he's okay. So he came out, they played the entirety of his entrance theme while the crowd did the yeet thing. The entire crowd, they kept showing wide pans of the audience where like the entire arena is doing this shit. So whatever the shit going on online about him is, that is not matching up with what's happening in the arena. And what's happening in the arena is what matters.
Popular opinion.
Yeah.
It's just niche opinion.
Yeah. But but they go through the entirety of it and the crowd chants one more time until they start playing it again.
Well, I guess now that they don't have a set end time, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. So anyway, and this is going to become a thing. You'll see. That will become a thing. More increasingly. So they do that for like another probably minute. And then he comes down and he's supposed to be making his, you know, like, I'm the Royal Rumble winner for 2025 speech. It is very obvious that he doesn't want to cry and his emotions are getting the best of him. This is probably the, like, you see, like, especially like back in like the Sammy and Bloodline early days, like Sammy was really funny and he would make like Roman break character and shit. Like Roman would laugh when it's not supposed to be he's not supposed to be a laughing type of guy, you know, and like we've seen people break character. This is by far the most like fourth wall break that I've ever seen. Like people get emotional. Like, I mean, you know, I love you. I'm sorry. There's tons of, you know, teary-eyed moments in wrestling, but this was just like, I don't know what his name is, like what his actual name is. I don't something Fatu. I don't know. I know YE or something. I don't remember what his actual name is. But that's who we were talking to at that moment, for sure.
Joshua Samuel Fatu.
Okay, so we were talking to Josh Fatu, for sure, 100%. Yeah. We were not talking to Jey Uso for at least a good minute of this because he was really trying hard to get out what he was trying to say, but his voice was shaky and he just kept having to stop. But then he finally got it out. He was like, I am the Royal Rumble winner. And he just kind of had to stop because the crowd went fucking nuts for him. They love him. In every arena, without fail, Jey Uso excites everyone to a man. I rarely see the guy in the crowd going. He got Michael Cole to stand on the announce desk and do the yeet thing. Okay. The ultimate professional Michael Cole. He's got Michael Cole standing on the announce desk and doing the yeet thing. He's got him dapping people up. It's really funny watching Michael Cole get a little bit of gangster in him. It's weird.
Yeah, see, but like, to me, that doesn't work because it's like, Michael Cole is in his role. Michael Cole has proved that outside of his role, he is incredibly uncool. So you have him joining in on that stuff, and it's like, oh, God, I don't want to be associated.
Oh, no. They're absolutely making him look uncool still. They're still making him look uncool. Like, nobody's playing it up like he's suddenly cool. Like, Pat McAfee is very obviously making fun of him every time he gets him to dap somebody up or do the yeet thing with him because it's him, like, goading it on. but he's doing that thing where like, you know, like a cool kid would do. I befriend the nerd. I make the nerd think we're homies. I goad him into doing things that makes him look silly. Like if I do it, no one, like I'm cool, but if he does it, he's, you know, like it's like that. Now it's kind of bullying. But that's what's happening. Okay. So I guess I'm working it out in my head. Now I have to call it out. WWE, please stop bullying Michael Cole.
See, that's why I don't like it. Like they're putting him in a no-win position.
So now whether they're doing that on purpose and he knows that that's the thing, like if that's what's going on and he knows Pat McAfee's bullying him and that's like the character. Okay. If Pat McAfee is doing this because he's a cool kid who is trying to make fun of the nerd and he's doing it on national television, you're an unprofessional bastard and I already don't like you. And this just makes me not like you anymore. Like I really can't like you. I really can't like Pat McAfee less, but I don't, this makes it worse. Like I just don't like Pat McAfee. But back to Jey Uso, who is having a real hard time getting this promo out still. Eventually the back realizes that he's not going to be able to get this whole thing out. So they send Gunther in. I'm sure this was already planned beforehand, but they finally go ahead and pull the trigger on Gunther to save Jay from having to make this promo. And then he gets out there, and of course Gunther does his thing where he's like, you know, he actually basically verbatim said on the mic to Jay what I said last week, which was, if I beat you, I gain nothing, but if I beat somebody else, I can cement my legacy. He said it to Jay's face, and that made Jay mad. In character or out of character, I couldn't tell you, but it was enough to get him out of the emotional cycle that he was on and get him into being able to talk back.
Right. Yeah. So it needed somebody to just snap him back into the bit.
Yeah. So at which point he said, if I decide to choose you, I'm going to walk out of WrestleMania the champion, and you're going to be upset just like last year. And before I decide to choose you, I'm going to go to SmackDown and talk to Cody, which we will get to because it was this week on SmackDown. Yeah, but good promo back. It's basically the same thing that's been going on. Gunther feels like Jey Uso is nobody, and Jey Uso is like, I am going to show you how somebody I am. You know, and so this is what's going to happen. Gunther stated it obviously on the mic in front of a live television crowd. You are either going to beat him and cement your legacy, or he's going to beat you and gain nothing. Here we are. You know, I mean,
guess the onus is on Gunther to beat him then.
Yeah. Sure is, isn't it?
I mean, like,
Gunther kind of painted himself into a corner. He has to win now, or he's going to look like an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like what the old argument about, you know, and I'm not saying that I agree with this, but like the old argument for, you know, integrating like a wrestling team, you know, in a high school. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, okay, well, nobody wants to face the girl because if you win, you don't gain anything because all you did was beat a girl. And then if you lose, well, you lost to a girl. You know, I'm not saying that I endorse that line of thought, but that was the argument when I was in high school. We had some a couple of schools that we faced that let girls on the team, and to a person, I think everybody who faced one, they just forfeited the match because they felt it was a no-win situation for them.
Yeah.
And Gunther painted himself into a similar situation, it seems.
Yeah. See, this, kids, is where the words that you say in a promo battle, despite what the outcome is going to be at the end, the words that you say matter. Because now, where Gunther could have just not said that and let it be implied, because if I said it last week before he said this on the mic, it wasn't obvious to just me. I'm very oblivious. So if I noticed that this is what this was before anybody said anything, it can't just be obvious to me. So if he had not said anything and it had just remained implied, then what would have happened is Gunther would have gained nothing but lost nothing. Now, if Gunther does not go over at WrestleMania, he has talked himself into looking like an asshole. And he shouldn't have done that, but hopefully we can course correct enough in the next few weeks before WrestleMania that we can get back to, I think is it like 8 weeks to WrestleMania now? But hopefully we can course correct in the next 8 weeks, which is plenty of time.
I mean, I don't even think that was a mistake. I think that was very pointed on purpose, and it was to get him heat after he loses, to get the crowd to chant that he's a loser, and for him to have
like a breakdown.
Either a breakdown or a redemption arc.
Oh, okay. You know what?
I mean, either way, it's probably the most interesting thing they've done from a character standpoint with Gunther that I've heard about.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically gotten over by being this unstoppable force that has really good matches, and he's not really known for his character work. This is that extra wrinkle. I mean, WWE loves to bring that out of its wrestlers, especially its main event guys. They want them to be more versatile than just being the guy that has good matches. So, if that's where they're going with it, and I could see them doing that, then I say that that's a really interesting place for them to go with it and for them to take that character, because then when Gunther loses, he has somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Storyline wise. So, and then he can go on a losing streak, and you could still get some, people over by beating him because he's still got the aura, or he could go back. I mean, the mooring thing is to completely ignore it and then just have him still be hanging out in the main event scene. That's what probably would have happened under Vince. We'll see what happens under Triple H.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll see. But Gunther is, he's doing some of his best work right now. The stuff with Sammy was really good last year. The stuff with Jay this year is going to be good. It's just going to be really good. And obviously we're going to have Sammy and, we'll talk about that later, actually. No spoilers yet. So then, speaking of Imperium, good way to segue to the next match. We had Ludwig Kaiser versus Penta.
Glad to see they keep Penta.
Penta is right now, he's their broomstick man. He is the guy who could wrestle a broomstick and have a good match. Him and Ludwig Kaiser beat the shit out of each other.
That's how they like
it. It seems to become a developing pattern that Penta is bringing strong style to WWE shores, because everybody he's had a match with, they have either slammed the shit out of each other like him and Gable, or in the case of him and Pete Dunne, or him and Kaiser, just brutalize one another. You
know what that means, right? That means he has to go up against the king of strong style eventually.
Eventually, we will get him and Shinsuke. Please. I would love to see Penta U.S. champion.
I think that's a great first step.
Yeah, I think it is too. And it's usually the first step.
I think he's the perfect opponent for Shinsuke to try and bring back the old Shinsuke.
Yeah. Something's got to be done with
Shinsuke. Who was in New Japan, the guy who had a match I still vividly remember today against Sami Zayn on his debut in NXT. That I stood there in awe. Like, they didn't know each other beforehand. They didn't, Shinsuke didn't speak any English beforehand, and they had like the match of the year that year. It's incredible. That's the magic of pro wrestling, is that you don't need to speak the same language.
Yeah.
You just need to speak the language of the four ropes.
Right.
Or the four corners.
So after the match, Penta wins because they're not going to have him take a L yet. I don't know when that's going to happen. But we actually kind of got the reveal on his very first program here at this point, because Jackie Redmond came out and she wanted to interview him. They start doing the interview and they're interrupted by Pete Dunne. Now, Pete Dunne was his opponent last week. So Pete Dunne's back. And so we're probably going to get Penta and Pete Dunne. Maybe Ludwig Kaiser's involved too, because as Penta's distracted by Pete Dunne, Ludwig Kaiser, comes up from selling the finish and attacks Penta. So he beats down Penta. Dunne doesn't really get involved in that. He just kind of stays out there. He's like, oh yeah, I'm responsible for that, basically. Like, not saying he made him do it, but hey, I distracted you and you got beat up for it. Ha. And Pete Dunne's been kind of on a tear lately. After the Butch thing is kind of over now. The Don't Call Me Butch thing is kind of over now, except R-Truth keeps doing it.
Well, he's R-Truth.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to have one guy do it, it's got to be him, right?
Right.
For the lulls.
Now, here comes the low point of the night. Now, it's the low point for me just because it was a complete misfire. And it's the low point for WWE because you should have known better, guys. So they send out Charlotte Flair. And she tries to do I'm so happy to be back. You have no idea how hard I worked to be back here sympathy promo. And the crowd's not having it. They're just booing her the entire time.
That's disappointing because I really thought that she had been gone long enough.
Nope.
That it wouldn't have mattered that she came in and just won the Royal Rumble, that they'd just be happy to see
no,
her.
It matters. They're pissed, man. And I thought that might have been just like with Jay. Like, I thought that might have been an online thing.
She was gone for like a year.
But
like a long, long time. And she's yes, I got tired of her too because of the constant pushing. It wasn't anything to do with Charlotte. It had everything to do with her booking. Mm-hmm. Every single bit of Charlotte fatigue has to do with her booking. Whether they book her to be dominant, whether they book her to be a face when she's far more natural a heel, everything has to do with how she is presented. Mm-hmm. With the exception of the Becky Lynch belt swap thing, which is an isolated incident.
Yeah.
But man, that disappoints me because she's so talented. She's so incredibly talented, and it's they keep trying this babyface thing, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Some people just aren't meant to be baby faces. Some people are meant to be. Ricky Steamboat as a heel. Can you imagine? No. Why would anybody want that?
Yeah.
I can't. I don't want Charlotte as a baby face.
Yeah.
So nobody does. So
they literally let this happen for like 10 minutes before they decided to pull the trigger and save her. So it got real awkward. Brutal. She started trying to turn it around and make it a heel promo where she was like, "Oh yeah, boo me, that's just money," and saying really just like let them eat cake, awkward type shit. Well,
she is the queen,
and she kept saying that too. And then Rhea Ripley showed up and got a huge freaking Jey Uso level pop right in Charlotte's face, and that like the look on her face, like character or not, it looked like it irritated her. That Rhea got this huge pop and she was coming out trying to be a sympathetic babyface and was not getting sympathy. Then she proceeded to have a promo with Rhea where she said, you're a kid, basically, even though they've had 2 matches and Rhea's beat her at WrestleMania. She still kind of, it doesn't make sense in the way, it doesn't make sense her calling her a kid in the way that like Copeland calling Moxley doesn't make sense, So
at least with Cope and Mox, they've never touched.
Yeah.
This is like, she beat you famously at WrestleMania 2 years ago. Like, and you can't call her a kid.
Yeah. Well, the effed up part about it is that like Rhea started her part of the promo with "I respect you. We fought at WrestleMania twice. Like maybe we should do it again." And then Charlotte went full heel on her and like tore her down and called her a kid and stuff like that and said she doesn't respect her. And but then she said, now I'm going to go to NXT and talk to Julia, and I'm going to go to SmackDown and talk to Tiffany Stratton, and I'm going to see who inspires me to, face me at WrestleMania because it will make one of your careers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Rhea's already made, bitch. You need to chill. Like this last year and something that you've been gone, she has been holding up this division and has gotten the love of the crowd, an adoration that you wish you could get.
Like if that's the direction they were going, that they were going to go with the story, why did they have her come out and try and get sympathy in the first place?
No idea.
That
no idea.
Makes sense.
Doesn't make any sense at all, and I don't know how much she had to do with it. But it was not good. This was a low point of the night. It wasn't terrible, but it was just like so awkward for that first like 10 minutes before they decided to save her by sending out Rhea, and just letting her be a heel because Rhea's such a face. After that, we had Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus New Day. Real basic tag team match. They all got their shit in, and New Day won. The problem with this match, and the reason why I don't have too many details on it, is that about midway through the match, it was interrupted by Logan Paul, who then decided to be on like commentary and sitting next to the ring like for the remainder of the match, which made me fast forward through most of it. Watch it on 2x.
For
no
what
sound.
reason? For what reason?
I think he's trying to feud with Rey Mysterio, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. Rey Mysterio's in a feud with the New Day right now. Why is Logan Paul getting involved at all? I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, wait. I think maybe it might be Rey Mysterio and Logan Paul to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. I think that might be what's happening. Maybe next week on Raw tomorrow.
Well, at least
as we record this tomorrow on Raw.
Matches. At least they're building matches ahead of time.
Yeah, but there is some seriously devolved go away heat for this man, even in the arena. It's bad. Like the boo, it's that different boo. And you know, yeah, I know you know what I mean, man. It's that tone. It's that tonal boo where it's like, we're not booing you because we don't like you. We're booing you because we don't like you.
Yeah, it's like, a tired boo.
Yeah, it's a tired boo. And that's what's happening, man. And it's loud. It's really loud. Like there's no amount of piping they're going to be able to do to fix that. It's loud. When there's 100,000 people there in April, it's going to be really fucking loud. No matter who he's facing, it's going to be really loud.
Oh, that means he's going to win, isn't he?
Probably.
They always misinterpret that.
They always, yeah. And they're going to shove them down our throats. And I don't like it. After that, we had Io Sky versus Liv Morgan. Longest women's match I've watched in a while. It probably ran about 15 minutes. Justified "This is awesome" chants from the crowd during
it's Io.
said match. Liv was working her ass off too, man. I'm telling you. These two have impeccable in-ring chemistry.
I haven't seen any of Liv's stuff in years. I remember her from the Riot Squad and not being impressed.
She's wrestling her ass off now, and her and Io Sky had a match, bro. They had a match. She had some bangers with Rhea Ripley. Like before interference and shenanigans ended both of those matches, they were good matches. So I mean, she can wrestle, man. She really can. And she's really good at being a twat. She's really good at it, man. Like I don't know how to. I'm trying to say that nicely because she's really good at it.
She definitely has one of those mean girl faces.
Oh, dude, she is such. It's terrible. But yeah. So I think we might be building towards Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky at WrestleMania, and this is why. Because before this match, Liv and Raquel attacked Io, and then Rhea got involved, and they attacked Rhea too. So about 3/4 of the way through the match, Rhea comes down. She pulls Raquel Rodriguez off the apron because she's trying to interfere in the match. She beats up Raquel Rodriguez, and while she's beating her up, Liv Morgan sticks her head out of the ring and goes and takes a swing at Rhea, and Rhea turns around and pops her, man. Like, I don't know if that was planned to land the way it did, but she freaking buttoned her, dude. And
ouch.
But that's a DQ. Liv wins. Liv's going to the Elimination Chamber, and Io Sky is pissed at Rhea. Pissed. So, I mean, she cost her the Elimination Chamber. So that we might be going to Io Sky and Rhea.
Chamber with the belt on the line, or is it to face
The Elimination Chamber is going to be for the men and the women is going to be for a title shot at whoever doesn't get picked by the Rumble
she's
winners.
not in. Well, if she's not in the chamber, unless they do like a last chance thing that they sometimes do.
I'm thinking that's what might happen. I'm thinking they might be doing like a last chance, or maybe she gets somebody else's spot because they'll injure him off or whatever. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. What if she
pulls an Edge and beats the crap out of Liv beforehand and just enters? Oh, I guess she's in the match now.
Yeah, I mean, they've done stupider shit before.
They haven't done that spot since that first time. I think it could get over again, especially if it's babyface doing it.
Yeah, I think
that part of it hasn't been done.
Right. After that, Seth Rollins promo. We got to zero in on what he's doing now because I mean I'm so tired of like I'm just tired of it, dude. And he continues to dress.
Why does he laugh like Snidely Whiplash?
I don't know, man. But as I said last week, he continues to dress like what I would expect a Tallahassee, Florida pimp to dress like. Anybody who's ever been to Florida knows exactly what the fuck I mean when I say that.
It's true. It's true.
So he's cutting a promo about the Royal Rumble, talking about how great it is that Roman Reigns and CM Punk didn't win. And then Sami Zayn comes out and he called out Sami Zayn. Sorry, I'm trying to get with my notes here, and I
was gonna say you seem like you were befuddled or conflicted over it.
Yeah, I'm not conflicted so much as I didn't clearly write down the order of how this stuff went. So I'm like, okay.
Oh well, there you go. We can edit that out then.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. So I might not. I'm an idiot. It's fine, folks. So he called out Sami Zayn, but he was hyping him up for his Elimination Chamber qualifying match because we got Sami Zayn versus CM Punk coming up next for Elimination Chamber qualifier. Zayn comes out and he's just like, just shut up already. Let me get to my match. As Sami Zayn has been doing lately. And then CM Punk shows up because, of course, Rollins has been running his head, but also because he has a match. And they cross each other on the path, coming to and leaving the ring, and they start a little fight, and a bunch of security and officials have to pull them apart. And then we get to CM Punk and Sami Zayn, which is really what I wanted out of this. So this is to get into the Elimination Chamber. They had a really good match. They had a nice sequence, a nice few sequences. Nice spot where like CM Punk's got Sammy's head through the ropes and he's pointing him at the WrestleMania side. He's like, I'm going, I'm going to be a WrestleMania main eventer too. Where, Punk's wearing his Hitman gear. It's all pink and everything. And so, he's doing his tribute paying and all that, but they have a really good knockdown drag out match. And of course, as I figured would happen, Punk wins.
Yeah, that's the safe bet generally.
Yeah. However, they're kind of, Punk kind of celebrates. He's leaving. Sami Zayn sells up. And you can tell he's like really dejected. Like he just lost the match. He's not going to the Elimination Chamber. And behind him, Kevin Owens hits the ring. And he's wearing a Sami Zayn Forever t-shirt. And he proceeds to pick Sami Zayn up and package pile driver him.
Well, you know what? I'm okay with them finally doing Sammy versus Kevin on the grandest stage possible.
Yes.
That's okay by me.
I'm okay with it also.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what got Kevin Owens to re-sign.
Yeah. Quick fast forward to how that ends. Sami Zayn is out indefinitely with spinal injuries, thanks to Kevin Owens. Yeah, quote unquote. Yes. So he got a pile driver. We're definitely going to be seeing Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. I don't know how any titles are going to figure into that, if any titles are going to figure into that. We will see. Overall, though, Raw moved along really smoothly. It was really good. All the wrestling, especially Io Sky and Liv Morgan, was just top-notch stuff. Penta and Kaiser were proving week after week that Penta is one of the best wrestlers on the roster, and WWE signing him was a good idea. It was a really good idea. So overall, WWE was super good, and that's going to take us to our shine.
All right, so here we are at the shine. It is AEW Dynamite from 2/5/25. I was really excited for this show because even though there were only 4 matches announced, it looked like a really, really good card, and they built up Strickland and Ricochet for 3 weeks, which was kind of nice. I liked the build, even if I don't like Ricochet as a person. For what he's shown of himself as a person lately. But yeah, I was really excited for this. The show opens up with Renee Paquette interviewing a Switchblade outside the arena. Death Riders come beat him up, but they do a little thing where it's like, "Oh no, I'm Switchblade and I'm alone. Oh wait, I'm gonna count everybody here, and oh, all my friends are behind you." And they have a big brawl, and they come down and eventually the good guys clear out the bad guys.
Renee gets kidnapped immediately.
Oh yeah, Marina Shafir just kind of like,
dude,
kidnaps her and just like takes her off screen.
I posted on Blue Sky. I was like, did they just kidnap Renee? And then my wife is watching it yesterday, and she's like, hey, I'm going to sit down and watch wrestling because she's away for work training and stuff, and so she's out of town. And she's like, I want to watch wrestling. And I'm like, okay, cool. So she sits down and she watches wrestling. 2 minutes after she starts watching wrestling, I get a text. Did she just kidnap Renee?
I mean, the law does say that you can technically kidnap your own spouse. So I'm guessing that's what Mox did.
I guess so. How does Roddy feel about his spouse doing all of this? I wonder.
I mean, we're kind of gonna touch on that later on in Collision.
Yeah,
so
is she gonna get a backbreaker one day?
When we get to that, I mean,
maybe
if you want to get saucy with it, she probably gets them all the time. But that being said, that's neither here nor there. The point was that it brawls out to the ring. Claudio gets a spear from Cope when he takes the bullet from Mox. It allows Mox to powder. Cope gets the mic and says the fans are chanting his name, not anybody else's. He wants a title shot at Revolution, and Moxley says he deserves nothing and he's going to get nothing. But Jay White counters the offer with a tag team match, Jay White and Cope versus Mox and Claudio at the Australia show, a Grand Slam. And he does accept that. So it's not that he doesn't want to fight anybody. He just doesn't want to give Cope the satisfaction of it being for the belt.
Okay.
It seems. So first actual match on the card was Will Ospreay versus the mystery opponent of the Don Callis family. Now, I had assumed via process of elimination that was going to be either Lance Archer, because he's already faced Brian Cage 2 weeks ago or last week.
Yeah.
And Fletcher previously to that. So really that only kind of left Lance Archer.
Yeah.
Or and Takeshita, who he wasn't going to face because there's, the belt getting in the way there. Or the mystery person that was implied to be with the group in that really, really good cinematic promo they cut a couple weeks ago with them at Don Callis' house.
Yeah.
They didn't explicitly say that this person was the person from the video, but out came Mark Davis, who seems to have at least unofficially reunited Aussie Open with Kyle Fletcher. Like, it seems like, they're still going to go in a singles direction with Fletcher. That's pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. But it seemed like from Don Callis' commentary, because he always turns commentary for his boys' matches, that Mark Davis may have rejoined under duress. It was implied but not outright stated. And then the following week on Collision, this was an inconsequential thing, so I'll just talk about it here right now. There was a backstage segment where Archer and Cage were just beating dudes up in the back because that's what Lance Archer does, and I guess that's now what Brian Cage does too, because he's tag teaming with Lance Archer. And Mark Davis was with him, and they're like, "This is what we do. If you want to be part of the family, this is what you got to do." So Mark Davis kind of reluctantly joins them. So it does kind of seem like he's either questioning his decision or he's making this decision for motives that are more desperate than not. Either way, the match was really, really hard hitting. Will Ospreay likes to put over everybody, but he especially likes to make his friends look good. So, Mark Davis, he's very close with. I mean, this match did more to make Mark Davis look like, a fantastic wrestler than anything he did with Aussie Open, because it was all on him. It was just all the focus was on him. He got to show some really cool stuff. There was one like a curb stomp he did, but with with his knee to the back of his of Ospreay's head instead of his foot. Thought that was kind of fun. If a little dangerous looking, it was very Super Dragon. But the end of the match, after it was back and forth, but most of it, I'd say, probably went to Davis, probably a 60-40 or so. But he got a little overzealous. He ripped off the middle turnbuckle, and the referee, of all people, what's his face? Mike Knox, of all people, actually catches somebody cheating for once. Usually when he's in a match, like, oh, there's going to be shenanigans, and Mike Knox is in here specifically because he's the guy who doesn't catch heel shenanigans. But the one time, which may highlight, in lampshade, the fact that Mark Davis isn't really a heel and that he's doing this under duress, which is those small little, if that is what's going on, and it's not something I'm just reading too much into, are those little details that I like about AEW. Is they sprinkle those little, bits of foreshadowing and kind of nuanced, kind of under the radar details in there.
Yeah.
That you don't necessarily think about right away in the moment.
Right.
But yeah, when the referee actually takes care, stops him from doing that, Hidden Blade by Ospreay to a standing Mark Davis, and that's it. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this could have been longer, and I would have been totally happy with it. It's a Will Ospreay match. I mean, am I going to turn that down? No.
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 Not at all.
Are you kidding me? No. He gets on the mic afterwards, Ospreay does, and he brings out Kenny, and Kenny wants to know what Callis has on Mark Davis. Again, beating it into your head that this may not be exactly what it seems. But yeah, he does his good. They build towards the match in Brisbane, and then he does his line, and the pyro goes off and surprises everybody, including Kenny Omega.
Yeah,
which I thought was, I think that was genuine. I really did think that TK just kind of slightly pranked him a little.
Yeah,
bit.
maybe you got ribbed, dog.
The reaction seemed genuine.
Yeah, he was like, oh, what the?
Yeah, it's like, oh, that even surprised me, guys. But yeah, so after that, Hurt's gonna get brand new tag team champs come. This is their first appearance as new tag team champions since they won the belt. They didn't show up on Collision the prior week, so they just cut a promo, I think. So they're here, and they basically say, we respect Private Party, but it wasn't their night. It's not going to be anybody's night. Anybody who wants to step up and get hurt can do so. And then that's when the Gun Club comes up, and they there's some like passive aggression going on about the actual professionalism that the Gun Club are showing by showing up and interrupting and doing so without shirts, doing so not in suits like real businessmen would. But yeah, I mean the Gun Club, they're back. they were over with the crowd. They were happy to see them back.
Me too.
Apparently, they're going to ignore the stuff with Hangman. Okay, like everybody seems to. There's this weird thing around Bullet Club Gold / Bang Bang Gang where like people forget when it's regarding them specifically. Like Darby Allin came back and conveniently forgot that Jay White was the one who injured him in the first place after stealing Sting's bat from him, which bugged me because now that I've watched AEW do this so long and respect the canon and respect the continuity, that when they pull a WWE and say, "Oh, ignore that," it kind of annoys me. It's like, but like I know why you did it, but can we address this? Can we go back to this, because this is a hanging thread here that needs to be addressed, I feel. And this way it's the other way, where the Gun Club are now ignoring something, and they're ignoring the fact that it was Hangman who put them on in storyline, put them on the shelf in the first place, and they're just ignoring that and immediately going after the tag belts. If you're gonna ignore it, I guess the tag belts are as good a reason as any to do that, but it's like, I think you may be forgetting something. That being said, we've got that match for next week. This upcoming Dynamite. Should be good. I don't expect the Guns to win. It's their first match back. The Hurt Syndicate is super over. They've only been champs for 2 weeks. TK doesn't usually do those, really, really short transitional title reigns. He doesn't seem to care for them too much. So I don't expect that to be anything other than a good match that the Hurt Syndicate winds up winning, but I'll take it for sure.
Yeah.
Renee is in the back with Harley and her Mercedes Moné puppet, who I think we're going to be calling Mercedes Puppet, because if we call her Muppet Monet, I think that Disney's lawyers will be all up and down my back, and I don't want that any more than anybody else who's ever dealt with Disney. So yeah, we're gonna call her Mercedes Puppet. And she does her ventriloquism thing. Harley or Mercedes shows up again, tells her she's a loser, and losers don't get to ride the money train. Pretty much not exactly the same thing, but are kind of a reiteration of their previous interaction.
Yeah.
Renee's with Hangman next, and he said that he had a momentary lapse in judgment looking for Swerve last week, but it's a mistake and he's going to move on. That I have every expectation and all the faith in the world that they will come back to that, though. They absolutely will. They don't just drop that and not go back to it, especially with how hands-on Adam Page seems to be with his creative and where his character is going, and Swerve for that matter too. That will be addressed at some point. I think this is a way of stretching out, the crisis of faith that Adam Page is experiencing after injuring Christopher Daniels into retirement.
Yeah.
Max Caster's there though, and interrupts the interview because he has one slated for next, and Hangman is just like, you know what, you can get yours too. So I have a feeling that the next person to answer Max Caster's open challenge will be Hangman Adam Page, in what will likely be another quick squad match.
I hope so.
I'm okay with it. Max Caster's annoying. I like seeing him, at least for a few weeks, before it gets old and before we miss competitive matches from him again, to see what he could actually do. I'm okay with top stars beating the crap out of Max Caster.
Yeah.
We can, have that be a few weeks of the top stars getting a win over him before he faces Bowens in something that's actually more competitive. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Actual match number 2 is the Hounds of Hell versus the Don Callis family of Takeshita and Fletcher. Really good back and forth stuff. They were setting up multiple matches here because it was confirmed that Buddy Matthews would be getting the Continental title shot against Okada. So after a lot of back and forth, it was very even all throughout. Nobody looked bad in this, and of course, Big Bad Brody King looked like Big Bad Brody King, and Buddy Matthews had some more. he's had more in-ring time. So to showcase him and what he can do ahead of his match with Okada. But the finish came a few minutes after Okada's music hit and his video hit, but he didn't come out at a spot where it looked like Buddy might have been able to put, I think it was Fletcher away. But the momentary distraction, it wasn't instant. It was a few minutes delayed, but draping DDT by Fletcher onto I think it was King, I think, and then a super kick and a rolling elbow combo, and then the assisted brainbuster to win. So like they kind of beat up on Brody King towards the end. So Buddy didn't take the pin, which was interesting in and of itself, because yes, that's the normal MO for building somebody. If they're going to lose, at least don't let them get pinned. But to see Brody take the pin is weird.
Yeah, it is.
Like, because he's up to this point been the protected one of the bunch. So to see him get a pinfall loss is very strange.
Agreed.
But I mean, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
The match itself was good. There was a funny skit with Hook and Samoa Joe where Joe is getting heated, and then Hook has to be the one to kind of rein him in and say, hey, look, remember what you taught me? If you're too angry, you get sloppy. And he's all like, I hate when you use my words against me. Just it was very dad and son. And I kind of like that dynamic that they have.
I do too.
So they bust into the Patriarchy's locker room, and it's just Kip and Nick Wayne in there. And they're like, where's your daddy? And he's like, he's not here. It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll settle for you guys. And they just beat the crap out of him. But the best part about it was halfway through the crap kicking that they got, you see Mother Wayne and Christian Cage open the door to the locker room and look in. And Christian has this look on his face like, oh, I don't want any part of this. And then just leave his sons and goes out further into the hallway. You see, the boys, laid out on the floor of the dressing room, and Hook and Joe leave. And that's when Christian Cage and Mother Wayne, oh my God, what happened? What, oh, we must have just missed it. What happened? And then like the cameraman tries to like basically put emphasis on implicating him, and then Christian's like, get away from me. He just slams the door in his face. And great little bit of comedy in with my violence. MJF is in the ring. He wants Jeff Jarrett to know that the E in all AEW stands for elite, not elderly. And that was the crux of the promo, really. Like, there wasn't really much more to say. It was more, I wouldn't say it was rambling, but it was more like hitting that same point home. And then Caster comes in because, Hangman was pursuing him at the end of that segment from earlier. And so Max and Max are in the ring being streamed on Max, which I thought was a great touch. And then Hangman's music hits, and then Max is just like, oh, like he's not afraid, but he's more annoyed. But he's like, I can't believe this is happening again. This keeps happening. And so he gets in, Hangman gets in the ring, and he has like a moment with MJF, and then just kind of brushes him aside like he's nothing, which is the part that really gets under Max's skin, is that they keep meeting and he keeps getting the brush off like he doesn't matter, like he's not worth Hangman's time. That's what's getting under Friedman's skin. But he goes off and he chafes after Caster. We never really get a follow-up on whether he ever caught Caster or not, but it doesn't really matter. That's not really the story. The story is that interaction, and then MJF gets on the microphone to kind of excoriate him, and then out comes Dustin Rhodes, which makes sense. He's friends with Jeff Jarrett. They had that segment a couple of weeks ago to set this up. But let me tell you what, Dustin Rhodes cut a way better promo than anything Jeff Jarrett did in the last 3 weeks.
True.
And they had a pull-apart brawl that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
I'm much happier with this, mini feud being with Dustin The match will be better. Dustin has, he has that genuineness. He has that goodwill with the fan base that Jarrett was kind of getting, but it was more recent, so it was more vulnerable to people not forgiving him for the slip up with the misogynistic promo a couple of weeks ago. Like, if he had been in the same position that Dustin had been, if he had been with AEW since the beginning, been a babyface for the whole time, he probably would have been forgiven more easily.
Mm-hmm.
But he was recently a heel, despite the Owen Hart stuff. And it was a really cringy promo. So, I don't know if this was a pivot or if this was the plan all along, but I'm much more excited for these two to touch than I ever was for Jeff Jarrett and MJF to get in the ring.
Yeah.
Together. So I'm okay with that. Queen Aminata versus Toni Storm, though, and this is the highlight of the show, in my eyes. I'm a huge Toni Storm mark. This is not a secret. I'm very open about this, but Mariah May was on commentary. Queen Aminata comes to the ring, but Toni Storm is announced as playing the role of Mariah May, Timeless Toni Storm, and comes out in her gear and with a wig on with extensions, and she's just nailing it. She is absolutely nailing every one of Mariah May's mannerisms, her movements, her pattern of speech, after, like in little parts where you can actually hear her talk. Like, it's just, you remember when at the beginning of this storyline where there was that one moment where Mariah May came out as Toni Storm in her gear and everything to her old music.
Mm-hmm.
And for a minute there, it was so uncanny that everybody actually thought it was Toni.
Yeah.
This was, like, everybody knew it was Toni ahead of time for this one playing Mariah, but it was just as uncanny.
Yeah. It was really spot on.
I think that even the makeup they did to make her facial features look a little bit more like Mariah's face,
Mm-hmm.
too. Like, it was, oh my gosh, this was, in my eyes, this performance, like, it may not have been the best match of the night, but it was the best segment of the night.
Yeah.
Because of just everything around Toni Storm and Mariah May. When they're together, it turns to gold. And, like, this was fantastic. Now, it's not to say that Queen Aminata didn't put in the work. She was absolutely, she was maximizing her minutes, and she was getting her, she was doing, like, the timeless pose a couple of times to make fun of her, and doing it right in Mariah's face too. Like, it was a good showing for Queenie, and she doesn't always show up on TV with the most frequency, so it's important for her to show up when she is, and I think she did that. And all the praise to Queenie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, she's really getting over with me. But this is, I mean, to me, it's all about Toni. She finishes Queenie with the Mayday. And then Renee joins Toni in the ring, and she does, like, all of Mariah May's stuff. And Mariah just, appropriately enough, storms off. She's just really, she's been so upset this entire time, to the point where she can't even really tease Toni as much as she normally does when she's on commentary. Like, she's just so upset the entire time. It was hilarious. Oh my god, I can't. It was great.
Yeah.
Main event of the night was Swerve versus Ricochet. Swerve comes out, and he's wearing the jacket of that Prince, not it's more of a robe, really, the traditional robe that the crown jewel of the embassy would wear in ROH. He gifted that to Swerve Strickland. He never gave him that title of crown jewel like he had in the past, but traditionally that was, whatever iteration the embassy took, there was always, like, the main guy, and they were the crown jewel.
Yeah.
And it was that robe, and he wore that to the ring, and Ricochet attacks him with a chair before the match starts. So he's beating him up for a good 2 minutes or so before the match starts. Crazy stuff in this match. Like, at one point they're both standing on the guardrail on the outside, and Ricochet looks to Hurricane Rana swerve off of it onto the floor, but he's caught and he gets power bombed right onto that railing.
Yeah.
Spine first.
Oh.
It looked sick, and I was cringing in such a good way. It was fantastic. These two have incredible chemistry. They have, history, obviously. I don't know whether, what Swerve said in his promo about never really liking Trevor was true or not, how close to home and how much of a shoot it actually was. But whatever it was, it sure translates to chemistry in the ring. This was another really, really good match. Ricochet kicks out of a Swerve stomp, which does not happen.
Nope.
Like, it just doesn't happen. I think the only person that I can recall to kick out of one, maybe Ospreay? Maybe? Like, it's usually the finish. But yeah, he kicks out of one of those, and it's like, oh, okay. And he later on at the end, he goes to and I gotta say that Ricochet got an awful lot of the offense in this match too, which made sense considering how it started with the chair and gaining the advantage and whatnot. But I was really surprised that Ricochet got so much of the offense. Ricochet actually wins. He stops a second Swerve stomp by holding up his hands in front of his face, which, given the momentum that happens when Swerve hits the stomp, spread his legs, and he got wishboned. And they were playing up that it may or may not have been intentional, but either way, it played in Ricochet's favor. He gets a spirit gun, and that's it. And I don't think anybody called Ricochet winning this one.
No, I didn't.
I mean, for the 3-week build, I thought that Swerve was winning for sure.
Yeah.
But I was surprised Ricochet, and then he takes the robe, the coup de grace. He takes the robe from Nana, and he absconds with it as the show goes off the air. And I just I hate that I have to praise him because now we know who he is. But man, I saw somebody on Blue Sky describe it thusly. When AEW signed Ricochet, they didn't just sign another guy. They signed another main event guy. And you know what? However I feel about what he does in his off time, his work justifies that position for as long as he doesn't actually do the things that the people he associates with also do. So,
right.
Yeah, no, this was a great show. I thought for something that was a little light on the wrestling, for your in comparison to your average Dynamite, and more packed with story stuff, I thought it was a really, really good show. Honestly, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot I didn't really care for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, anytime I can say that about any wrestling show, it's a good night.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I guess that's all that needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go on to the Morton.
To the Morton. All right, it's time for our Morton spot for the week, and that's going to be SmackDown. I will reiterate, SmackDown is a lot. Please stop having it be 3 hours. Oh my gosh. Even watching it without commercials like I do, it is a lot, man. It is just a lot. So we started out with Jey Uso again. And he comes out and, he actually gets through his I'm the Royal Rumble winner promo this time. We also did have an encore of his theme music this time again. And also big wide shots of the entire arena being into it. The guy's just over. So he said he could challenge Cody Rhodes. And of course you say his name and he appears. Here's Cody Rhodes. They talk a little bit about, who he could pick. He hasn't made a decision yet, but they're interrupted by Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu. They have a nice brawl out. We're clearly setting up a tag match for later. Next, we had Piper Niven versus Bianca Belair. I timed it. It was about 9 minutes. I think that's being generous, actually. So another subtenant, but kick-ass match. They beat the brakes off each other. It was really good, man. Bianca can hang with Piper because of her strength. They both have really good ring awareness and ring ability. It was a really good match. I think we're building Piper to look legitimate for when she does eventually turn on Chelsea Green. But right now, she's putting in some really good work. Bianca Belair picks up the win, though. This was also an Elimination Chamber qualifying match, so Bianca Belair is going to the Women's Elimination Chamber.
All right, then. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, then DIY came out to do a promo, and they're getting booed because they're heels, and they get interrupted by Pretty Deadly, who remind them that they should get a title shot because of all the help they've given them keeping those titles. And basically, Gargano and Ciampa are just brushing them off. I mean, they're in street clothes, and they've got their belts and all that, and they're just kind of doing a promo, and they're just kind of brushing these guys off. When Nick Aldis shows up and decides that he's going to pull a Tony Khan, and if Pretty Deadly can beat DIY in a tag match, they'll get a shot at the title.
All right.
Right now.
Oh.
So DIY is still in their street clothes, and they proceed to get into a match with Pretty Deadly. It's actually a pretty good match, and Pretty Deadly picks up the win. So now they get a tag title match.
Yeah, I mean, WWE has that habit of having their champions lose non-title matches, but at least they gave them the excuse this time that it was impromptu and that they weren't prepared for it. They don't usually give them that courtesy, so you got to give them that.
Yeah. So, you would wonder how this is going to work with a heel thing, because Pretty Deadly are technically heels, but they are so beloved by the fans that I think it's going to be really easy to flip them face. Really easy. Like, just, it's not going to be hard at all. I love them. I have no problem cheering them. So here we go. And honestly, I will say this. I'm a fan of Motor City Machine Guns. I'm a fan of DIY. I'm a fan of the Garzas and LWO and a lot of the tag teams in WWE are really likable and are enjoyable in the ring. Pretty Deadly's my favorite. They went from being pretty much unknown to me to my favorite tag team in WWE just because they are so good at maximizing their minutes, and they don't play chicken shit heel once they get in the ring. They will whoop your ass. And that's the best part about them, man. It really is. And they always put on good matches. I haven't seen a bad one yet. So this was really good. Kind of a surprise, Elton, the blonde one, surprise rolled up Ciampa and then grabbed the middle rope and held onto it for dear life. And that's how they got the pin. So, I mean, he did heel it up to win, but we know who's going to be the heels in this, and we know who's going to be the faces. It's the writing's on the wall as far as the crowd is concerned. So we'll just see how WWE plays it. But it was a really good match. I thought it was really fun more than anything. It was just really fun. Those guys are campy, antic-y, but they'll beat the shit out of you. So it's the best combination of all the stuff I like about wrestling, which is kind of a comic heel coupled with one that will whoop you. Will straight up just put a beating to you if you have to be beaten. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's not a wrestler who relies on their personality. It's someone who has a personality but can still go.
Yes.
There's a mountain's worth of difference there.
Yeah. Next we had a kind of a promo battle. So Drew McIntyre comes out. He's the newest guy on SmackDown from the transfer window. And he's, talking about, how like he says it's the best promo I've ever seen Drew McIntyre do. It had me laughing legitimately. Okay.
Wow. Considering the last year, that covers a lot of very interesting
It
ground
was
and says a lot.
very different from a normal promo that he would do, because he came out, he's like, why am I so mad? He's like, I went home after after the Royal Rumble, and I was mad after that. And I went home and I slept in my own bed, and I woke up and I went and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, why are you so angry all the time? I got a hot wife. I'm jacked and handsome. I'm Drew fucking McIntyre. And I was like, yes, Drew. Get it, King. Like, this
positive affirmation,
yeah,
Drew
positive
McIntyre.
affirmation, Drew McIntyre. I am with this Drew McIntyre for sure. But then he gets interrupted by Jimmy Uso, who he promptly calls Jay. Not sure if it was on purpose, honestly, and was funny regardless. But they have a little bit of a promo off, and then here comes LA Knight. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you exhibit probably 645 and how to turn real life heat into business. As LA Knight comes out and verbally thrashes Drew McIntyre. So, okay, first of all, LA Knight does the thing that nobody gets to do and nobody does. Okay, he comes out and he says, F what both of these guys in the ring are talking about. I'm sending a message to all the boys and men out there right now. If something is bothering you and you feel like you need to cry, you go ahead and cry. It doesn't make you less of a man to cry. And he leaves it there for a second, okay? And then he goes, but you can go too far. Like Drew McIntyre. He's like, every time I see you with the mic in your hand, Drew, you're crying. You're crying because you lost the Rumble. You're crying because you lost to CM Punk twice. You're crying. And he's like, you didn't lose the world title. He's like, you didn't have the world title stolen from you. You lost it. Like, he's just tearing McIntyre up. And he's like, oh, and I'm sorry. I had to get my shit in. Which is apparently the reason that Drew McIntyre was mad at Royal Rumble, because LA Knight was getting his shit in the Rumble, which he totally was doing that. But they took this real life heat and they turned it into money. How'd they turn it into money? These three guys are immediately put into a match right now for an Elimination Chamber qualifier.
So was there anything that was planned to be on SmackDown? Or was there, like, in kayfabe, no plan for the night? That's 2 impromptu matches.
Yeah.
In a row.
So they have this going in. It was a solid match all the way through. Really good triple threat. Coolest ending, man. Okay. Here's how the ending goes down. LA Knight grabs Jimmy Uso in the position for the BFT, which is a blunt force trauma, which is kind of like a Mrs.
It's like finale. It's like a cutter, except instead of falling on your back,
like a brainbuster cutter.
Yeah. It's like a cutter driver.
Yeah, like that. So he's got him in position for this. And Drew McIntyre comes out of the corner behind him because he goes forward with this move. But Drew McIntyre comes from behind him, and Claymore kicks him in the back of the head. And in the process of getting Claymore kicked in the back of the head, he drags Jimmy Uso down into a BFT.
Very cool. I love it when you can combine finishers like that.
It was so cool. And so, of course, Jimmy Uso's out from the BFT. LA Knight's out from the Claymore kick. Drew McIntyre's going to the Elimination Chamber. So we've got McIntyre, Punk, and Cena so far, for those of you keeping track. Which is, it's already making it a who is going to win this, I am not sure. That's already a who is going to win this, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the path towards the WrestleMania main events is still unclear. Like, we have one participant, we have 2 champions. We have an idea of what one of the champions is doing. We have no idea what the other one is doing. We assume that it's going to be Gunther and Jay, because it's seems like they're going to an awful lot of trouble to set that up if they're not going to do it. And then this Elimination Chamber, though, like, who's going to face Cody? It seems unclear right now.
Yeah, this is the most unclear, I feel like, the WrestleMania main events on both sides, men and women. This is the most unclear I think they've ever been going into Elimination Chamber. Like, because we don't know who's going to face who yet. Elimination Chamber is 2 or 3 weeks away. I'm not sure who's even in. I mean, as far as, I mean, we'll get to it later. I think we, or no, maybe we might have another match on this show for a qualifier, but right now it's just those 3 of the 6 guys. We don't even know who else is going to be in the chamber. All we know right now is that Gunther and Cody are champions. Jay has a pick, and then we have 3 of the 6 guys who are going to determine who gets the next pick. And we don't know who any of them have picked. And then Charlotte made it even more complicated with hers because she put NXT in the mix too, because Julia would be a bomb match. Her and Woo.
I mean, that's a callback to 2020 too. The exact same. Well, I mean, the setup was slightly different, but she won the Royal Rumble, and then that was her first match against Rhea, was for the NXT Championship of all things. Yeah. And they had that match to no fans because of the pandemic, and yeah, like that's when Charlotte won the NXT Championship for a second time randomly. Like, just because she's Charlotte and they had nothing else to do with her. Like, they had nothing else for her. If they're not putting a belt on her, they don't know what to do with Charlotte.
Yeah. Then we had another match that was kind of booked on the fly tonight. So earlier in the evening, Nick Aldis dragged Carmelo Hayes back in his office again and said, "Hey, you're going to fight another guy from Raw." This time, though, it's Akira Tozawa, who Carmelo cost his spot in the Royal Rumble.
Well, continuity. I like it.
So I'm looking for an Akira Tozawa win here. Unfortunately, what I get is a 5-minute match that is kind of competitive, but Akira loses. He defeats Tozawa, but then he like tries to beat him down and like be, you know, a heel to him afterwards, and Jimmy Uso shows up and like gets rid of him, basically. I don't know why Jimmy Uso would save Akira Tozawa, other than they're both faces. It's the best I got.
And also, wasn't he just beaten?
Wait. Him and Carmelo Hayes are. They've been talking shit back and forth. They've been beefing, yeah. So I guess that makes sense a little bit. But yeah, he was just
over turf.
So, you know, we get another Kevin Owens promo from his car, basically blaming Sami Zayn for not winning the match at Royal Rumble and saying that Sami's a terrible friend and he'll never forgive him. So yeah, we're barreling towards that for WrestleMania. That's definitely a clear one. Carmelo Hayes told Akira Tozawa that he looked like Cody Rhodes, who got left in the dryer too long, and that was way funnier than it should have been.
Yeah, I can see it though. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. Then we had another women's Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Candice LeRae versus Alexa Bliss, which they announced, and then Charlotte came out. And then Charlotte was being a heel this time. She called all the other 29 competitors in the Rumble unserious women. And then she was talking again about the choice that she's going to make for WrestleMania. And she mentioned Tiffany Stratton, and Tiffany showed up.
Yeah.
To mostly cheers. It's not going to be hard to flip her face. It looks like people are totally down with cheering her over Charlotte Flair. Tiffany gets in the ring. She tells Charlotte, you know, like, I looked up to you. There's not a bigger Charlotte Flair fan than me. And then Charlotte looks her dead in the eye and goes, "What did you say? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention." Eesh. God. Like, Mean Girl fucking level 1000, dude. It's terrible.
I mean, if they're not going to cheer you might as well go the other way with everything you have. Just lean into it.
Yeah, but then Nia Jax interrupts and she says, I'm going to get that title back before we even get to WrestleMania. So you have me to contend with, not her. And Charlotte says, oh, this is interesting, so I'll be here to watch this. And they have a women's title match on SmackDown next week, which is kind of weird. I figured they might do that at Chamber.
Yeah, I thought that she would just qualify for the Chamber, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
But, okay.
But Candice LeRae came out with Nia Jax because they're like besties now. And then Alexa Bliss shows up. Huge pop. She wrestles Candice LeRae. Doesn't look like she's really lost a step at all.
How was she still rocking the kind of like Fiend adjacent?
Oh yeah, she's still got.
Yeah,
she's got the leather jacket, and on the back where it said Fiend Forever, she put an R in it, so it says Friend Forever, and that hurts my heart every time I see it. But she's still rocking like the big weird pigtails and the dark makeup and the little doll. Yeah, I mean she's all that. Yeah, she's still doing it. Even though I don't know where Wyatt Six are. I think they're on SmackDown, but I haven't seen them yet.
They're on SmackDown now. They got traded over.
Yeah.
So you have to think that, they would do the obvious thing and do something with those guys together.
She also used the Sister Abigail to get the win. So
it
might be something going on there.
All right.
I don't know what we're gonna do here, but hopefully something, and I'm sure she would be down for it. She obviously probably had an option to change her gear and didn't. But she wins. So Alexa Bliss going to the Elimination Chamber. It was actually a really hard hitting match for as small as the two of them are.
Candace.
They really got
Candace can go.
Yeah, they got down.
Candace can really go.
Then after that, we got to the main event. Actually, after an ad that for the first time I saw a commercial on a WWE program that I was like, I'm interested in. Apparently now they have, oh my gosh, what is it called? Okay, I'll have to get the name for the next show, but it's going to be a show that they show, I guess, on YouTube or on Peacock or Tubi or something. No, it's on Tubi. But it'll be a free show on Tubi Wednesday during the day. And it's going to be like an indie show of the WWE ID people.
Okay. Is that what they're doing with Evolve now?
That's what it's called, Evolve.
Okay,
Evolve.
yeah. Evolve was that indie that they had that relationship with. Like, I remember the last WrestleMania I went to was 31, so it was, my goodness gracious, 10 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But the one of the indie shows we went to was an Evolve show long before they had that's where we saw the new and improved Drew McIntyre. Because Drew Cal, he was on his real name, but he was already jacked. He hadn't been released for that long. He was already enormous. It was a really good show. But yeah, the thing with Evolve was like they made a big deal about like partnering with them, and then they had like a couple of shows, and then they just dropped it. Like, and it was like, just furthering their the stereotype and the reputation surrounding how they work with other wrestling companies and how negative that usually is. But yeah, I'm glad to see they haven't like totally just gutted it and left it in the gutter.
Yeah,
it looks like they're resing it. So okay.
Yeah, they're framing it as the ID people who are hoping to get to NXT. So, like, I guess even a further step down from NXT, but
the minor leagues to the minor leagues.
But yeah, they framed it like one step below NXT, but it's going to be on Tubi like Wednesday or Thursday during the day. Like it'll be out early during the day or something like that. After that, we get to the main event. We've got Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga that they set up earlier. This is a really like hard hitting match. But it was only like 5 or 6 minutes kind of deep. and then it kind of fell apart. It really wasn't interesting after that.
Well, if you hit hard enough, the match doesn't need to be long to be good. Like there's the WrestleMania match between the second one with Goldberg and Lesnar, which was about 4.5 minutes, and that was awesome.
Well, in this case, the match kept going, and it just didn't continue to be awesome as it was at the beginning. But then, we had some shenanigans, but Rhodes and Uso pull out the win. But then Solo Sikoa shows back up and spikes Rhodes. So now Solo Sikoa's back and he's in the mix, and I don't know how they're going to keep him in the mix, but he's there.
Well, they'll probably put him in the chamber.
Probably. We still have 3 spots. We don't know who's in it yet, so it could. And that would just muddy the waters even further to put a Bloodline member or 2 in the elimination chamber.
What is the Bloodline even like?
Well, new Bloodline, now? I guess. I don't know. I thought that this was over.
Yeah, like the whole point of them was they were trying to usurp the original Bloodline. And now Roman's won back the Ulafala. He's the tribal chief, even though he never shows up on TV to do anything of consequence. Jimmy's off doing his own thing. He's reconciled with Jay, but he's off doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
That right now is higher on the card than Roman is, technically speaking. The original Bloodline is not doing anything together, but Roman is still the tribal chief. But the new Bloodline is still doing stuff together with no direction.
Yeah, basically.
Like, what? What are we doing?
I don't know, man. But that just muddies the waters more because we don't know what's happening there, so we don't know how it's going to affect the WrestleMania picture. So,
I mean, if it was me, I would if you're going to do the thing with Solo, put him and Jacob Fatu both in the Elimination Chamber and have Fatu eliminate him. And then lead that to a match at WrestleMania.
I mean, I'd be down for that, personally. But yeah, other than that, I mean, SmackDown's pretty good this week. As as it has been for the last few weeks, WWE is putting out good product, man. It's everybody is, but WWE is too. I mean, it's wild. Usually, one or the other, but it's both right now, and even more than that. So. Yeah, it was good. And that about wraps it up. So it's time for the hot tag.
All right. So the hot tag. This hot tag is brought to you by AEW Collision from 2/8/2025. As usual, as has been expected from now, for a long time now, Collision is the definitely more wrestling centric of the 2 AEW shows. There was a lot broadcast ahead of time. A lot of matches. So let's get right to it. Unfortunately, I wanted to say something about the venues this week, but they were small, but they weren't really anything special, in comparison to, the previous 2 or 3 weeks where they had really, really cool looking architecture and stuff like that. What I will say, though, is that this crowd for Collision, holy cow, they were into everything. It was an incredible crowd from Rosenberg, Texas. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the geography of Texas. Like, I'm sure you do, Aaron, given the fact that you were born and bred there. But I assume that Rosenberg is close enough to Houston that, because they were making all sorts of Houston references.
Okay, so Rosenberg is like a way outlier suburb. It's kind of like a backwoods redneck town way outside of Houston. The arena they were in, I'm pretty sure, is a wide open, like a rodeo arena, which is why I didn't have great architecture.
Bend Epicenter?
Yeah, Fort Bend Epicenter. It's either a rodeo arena or something, like maybe a basketball or something, but it's just like a sports arena, general sports. But yeah, arena. It's close enough to Houston that, I had band members, shout out Nathan from Rosenberg, that I played with in bands. And, I knew where it was and stuff like that, but it is kind of, if you're an in Houston person, I lived in Alvin for a while, and that's pretty far out there from Center City, Houston, and it's not as far out there as Rosenberg is.
Yeah.
Well, so it's not that, but Fort Bend County is a very large county, as is Harris County. They're both kind of taken up in their entirety by Houston and surrounding areas.
Which is the fourth biggest city in this country.
It's kind of like Long Island in the 5 boroughs. It's just really, it's actually just spread out way farther. Just
the
because
greater Houston metropolitan area.
That's correct. Yes. Houston, as we call it.
But the crowd was just into literally everything.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. They made up for the lack of like unique, cool looking venue by just being so energetic the entire time. And to be fair, AEW gave them a lot to cheer for. There were a lot of luchadors on the show. There were a lot of Texans on the show. Like, they were definitely playing to the crowd that they were playing in front of, and it was a smart call. Anytime they go to Texas, they do this. They always get good reactions for it. It's a smart play. It's a smart play. Like WWE, despite Texas being the second biggest geographical state in the country and being the second most populous state in the country, they like never go to Texas. Like, it's real weird. Like, they'll do a pay-per-view at Houston or Dallas, occasionally San Antonio, but like, it's an enormous state. It's the size of France. One of the most populous countries in Europe is geographically about the same size as Texas. Think about that. Like, that's a large amount of places that you could go conceivably, and they hardly ever show up there. Whereas AEW, they had that residency last year where they were in the same spot for 8 weeks, and I thought that was a great experiment. I thought it really paid dividends for them. And I think that the AEW saw that and the success of that, and I think they're kind of surreptitiously kind of growing a market there as trying to be like, maybe not, WWE will always be number one, but maybe be like a lot more, there will be a lot more loyal AEW fans in Texas than in most other states because they go there, they're going there more often, It's like, and obviously there's a huge tradition of wrestling in Texas.
Oh yeah. Coast to coast, baby.
So
all the way around.
But between World Class and the crossover from AAA and CMLL and all these indies, like there are just a ton of indies. There are more indies in Texas than there are in New York, and there are a lot of indies in New York. Yeah. I think it's really smart that they're laying this foundation and taking advantage of the historical fandom of the state, and they're serving a weirdly underserved market for major company wrestling.
Yeah.
Like WWE goes to New York a lot. They go to California a lot. They go to Virginia and Atlanta, and maybe not so much Virginia, but definitely Georgia. They go to Florida a lot. Obviously, Jacksonville is the home base of NXT too, or Orlando is rather. But for some reason they just don't visit Texas as much as they probably should. So I think that AEW is kind of doing it quietly. They're not making a huge deal about it, but there's a reason that the big stadium show for All In is going to be in Texas. They want to take advantage of this underserved market.
Yeah.
So, you guys are eating well in that respect as well. So there's that. And this crowd definitely was appreciative of it. Mm-hmm. Show opened up with Moxley and Marina kind of crashing the party. It was great. The opening shot after the Elton John was a shot of Nigel and Tony at the desk, and then they're running down the nice show, and then all of a sudden you see from out of frame into the frame is thrown some random security guard because Moxley just jumped over the barricade and threw him. It's like, okay, that's a way to make an entrance. But yeah, he gets on the mic and he's like, I've got 1,000 reasons why Cope doesn't deserve a title shot, but he doesn't mention any of them really. He says he'll fight. Yeah, it's like, I got 1,000 reasons why you don't, but basically he said that if I feel like it in Brisbane during that tag match, if I feel like it, I might break your neck again and end your career permanently. You don't know who you're up against, blah, blah, blah. I was like, ugh. It's like we all know we're just treading water at this point. Like, I have a feeling that Cope versus Mox will be better than the anticipation for the match would suggest it'll be. But, like, we all know Cope's not going to win the damn thing. Like, this is treading water at this point. So it's like, I don't know. Plus, it's like he's a recent AEW guy. It's like, if this is about the heart and soul of AEW, he shouldn't be. AEW shouldn't be defended by the new guys. It should be defended by the guys who have been there the longest, or at the very least, if they haven't been there that long, the guys who openly embrace it and its identity a little bit more. Adam Copeland has been very open about loving his new place of employment, but he doesn't necessarily embody it the same way that like a Will Ospreay does. They've been there about the same amount of time. Will Ospreay's actually not been there quite as long, if you want to talk about just being on a contract. But, he still embodies that spirit of AEW better than Cope does, because this is the only time that Cope has wrestled for a major company other than WWE in his entire career. He never went to WCW. He only had a couple of years on the indies before he got called up to WWF. Like, there's very little outside of WWF that he knows about working for the inner workings of it, being an employee there. So it's like, it's far more. I think that's why this is ringing hollow for a lot of guys. It's like, why Cope? Like, he's, we're glad he's here, but he's still kind of a WWE guy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's, the match will be good, but like the result is foregone, and it's not really lighting the world on fire from a story standpoint, because Cope is an AEW guy, but only recently. So
yeah, I agree.
First match on the show though was a barn burner. Great three-way trios match between the Undisputed Kingdom, Danny Garcia and 2.0, and Shane Taylor Promotions, made up of Shane Taylor and the Infantry. And boy, did this, everybody got their stuff in, which was especially important for Shane Taylor Promotions because they haven't been as heavily featured. Mm-hmm. So the Infantry got a nice chance to shine. Shane Taylor looked like the monster that he should be pushed as. Like, it still took several guys to get him down towards the end. Like, it was a really, really good stuff. Like, it was to the point where it's like, I kind of thought Undisputed Kingdom might win going into this match, but I honestly wasn't sure because of how well the other two teams presented themselves. And plus, with each member of the Undisputed Kingdom showing kind of tepid interest in Danny Garcia's TNT title too, there's always the chance that Danny may get a pin here just to further that bit along. Mm-hmm. But they went the other way. They went with the Undisputed Kingdom. Finish was Carly Bravo. He escapes a Panama Sunrise, but eats a super kick. Cole lowers the boom. Everybody was over. Undisputed Kingdom celebrate after the match, but get attacked by the Death Riders, who notably are all wearing their trios title belts. Mm-hmm. Which I think is interesting, considering Moxley refuses to wear his. Right. But I maybe they're not all as united as in thought process as they want you to think they are. I don't know. Maybe it's just an oversight. Yeah. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right?
Sometimes
but yeah, so the Death Riders, they corner Adam Cole, they isolate him, and they said, okay, well, you keep talking about how you want to be the most dominant trio in AEW. Did you forget about us? Like they later on they would have a segment, an interview where they said that they basically kind of hand waved their lack of trios title defenses by saying that nobody stepped up because everybody was afraid to face them, which it's a weak reason, but in character I can kind of see sort of, yeah, I mean, Death Rider's scary, so okay, whatever. It's weak, but at least it's a reason, and at least they mentioned it, and they're like, okay, now, I mean, it definitely feels like they're trying to revitalize that division.
Yeah,
this match and the 2 matches in successive weeks before it made it very clear that they're trying to refocus on it. So, yeah. But yeah, Claudio takes the mic. And he's wanted to remind everybody who the real trios champion is, but Cole says something, but it doesn't get picked up on the mic. So Claudio's like, "What was that?" So he holds the mic to Cole's face, who's still being held on either side by the other members, by Yuta and Pac. And he's like, "You picked the wrong trio to mess with." And all of a sudden, out of frame, Roddy comes in and just blasts Claudio with a knee.
Over the top of Adam Cole.
Yeah, over the top of Adam Cole. He gets crazy air for somebody who's only like 5'10".
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of nuts. Like, that Roddy Strong is incredibly athletic.
Yes, he is.
I don't know if y'all knew that, if y'all realized that, but he's an insane athlete. But he did that, and the baby faces cleared house. And they've got a match set up for Dynamite. So Trios titles on Dynamite this week. So that's good too.
Yep.
FTR had a pre-tape promo basically reminding us that they're the GOAT and that they want the belts for a 3rd time. Awesome.
Cool.
They're my favorite tag team. They're the best tag team of this generation, perhaps arguably any generation. So, I mean, I know that it's fashionable to kind of hate on them right now for whatever strange reason. I don't know why.
Nope.
But on this podcast, we stand FTR forever.
Yes, we do.
So,
yes,
in any case, Max Caster wants to know who can survive the best wrestler alive. It'll be Hangman, and it'll be on Dynamite, and he'll get his rear end handed to him again.
Yep.
Match number 2 was super cool. Bandito makes his in-ring return against Brian Keith. Brian Keith answering a $200,000 bounty that Chris Jericho, I forgot to mention, had put on Bandito's head. He saw one of those most wanted posters that they had peppered around the arena. It said 100,000. He's like, I'm going to double that. And Brian Keith was formerly the bounty hunter, so he took the bounty. So $200,000 of Chris Jericho's money was up for grabs for Brian Keith if he could take care of Bandito. He could not. Spoiler alert, he could not. But the match was great. I thought Brian Keith really acquitted himself well. He hasn't had that many singles matches since joining the Learning Tree. He hasn't really had this kind of showcase. But Bandito is crazy. The dude, with his one-handed press slam. How is somebody that small able to do these one-handed press slams? That's insane. How does somebody master the physics of their own body when they only weigh about 210 pounds?
I don't know.
And they're only about 5'11" to be able to do that. I don't get it. It's incredible. I love like seeing it every time.
Bomb shelter, dude. Like he's just.
Like, he doesn't look it. He looks like any one of these smaller cruiserweight guys, but he can do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's insane and it's great. It's incredibly entertaining, pops the crowd every time. I think the spot of the match for me, though, was about 3/4 of the way through. You know where I'm going.
Oh, hell
this.
Yeah, I do, because it was my favorite, too.
They wound up back to back at some point after getting up, and they're all tired. and then they kind of look over each other's shoulder, over their shoulders at each other, and they nod, and they take like 10 paces. It's not 10 because the ring isn't that big, but 10 paces towards the corners, and they both shoot at each other like a shootout, and they both hit each other with what essentially is a claymore kick or a sit kick if you're Roddy Strong, and they both knock each other. It's a double down from that. It was incredible.
It was great.
Best double down I've ever seen. Yeah. Loved it. Absolutely incredible. Crowd loved it too. They loved everything, but they loved that definitely. But yeah, Keith loses the match after being hit by like that weird it was like that reverse torture rack GTS thing that he hits, and then the 21 plex, which is incredible. Every time I see the 21 plex, I'm like, how do you do that? Right. How do you go over it and bounce back? Like it's insane. But yeah, no, Bandito had a fantastic outing. I'm glad to see he hasn't slowed down, and that the concussion was just a complete fluke, and it hasn't really affected him all that much going forward. Some of these guys get concussions and they're like Chris Nowinski and they're done forever. Done. Yeah. And you hate to see, concussions are so scary because like there's a huge spectrum of how much it impacts your career going forward. Sometimes you guys like, you've got your Chris Nowinskis on one side, and then apparently on the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got Bandito, who looks like he hasn't lost a damn step and was only back was back after 4 weeks or whatever. So like,
right.
I'll take it. That was great. There were a lot of squash matches on this show, but they all kind of served their purpose. I'm not really like, there were some complaints online that there were too many squash matches, but it got the Beast Mortos back on my screen. I don't care. Yeah. Dralistico had his first match. LFI versus 3 local guys. 2 had the same last name, but I don't think they were related. But yeah, like it was the Beast Mortos hits pop-up Samoan drop, springboard code breaker by Dralistico, Bull's Horns by Roosh, who is still coming out in that awesome new gear of his.
Yeah, it's great.
He should have it forever. He looks like such a star with that. Like he looks like you immediately go, who is that? When you look at him in that, like it's fantastic. LFI wins. They continue to kind of beat down the local guys, but then Commander shows up because we're in Texas and this is involving Mexican wrestlers, so why not? So he hits this crazy springboard reverse Rana onto Mortos, because of course it's onto Mortos because he can do anything that you want him to do. And he looks like he's going to take care of all 3 of them by himself, but eventually the numbers get through and he's on the receiving end of a beatdown. It looks like they're going to finish him off, but then the lights go out. And then on the Tron, you see Hologram in his like dirty bum street clothes from the other video he had the other week, and he like opens a portal on a wall and he jumps through it, and is like this downloading bar like upgrade complete, and he comes out and he just lays everybody out. He completely lays weights to everybody. Great to have Hologram back. He was over, and then he got derailed a little bit by that injury, picking up where he left off against the guys who put him out. Love it. Great bit of business. Lexi Nair was backstage. She was following Megan Bain around backstage, because why wouldn't you follow around a goddess? I mean, she's that's clearly the aesthetic she's going for. Yeah. That's not me being a simp. That's me just like, I mean, look at her. That's clear. She's clearly going for Greek goddess as her aesthetic. Might as well call her that. But yeah, she just brushed her off. And Thunder Rosa comes in. She tries to make nice with Megan, but she's like, she brushes her off too. She's like, oh, rude. But then she cuts a promo about how she's going to show Penelope tonight and blah blah blah. It was great. It was fun. Harley halftime. Oh God, just Harley Cameron just continues to just impress me every single time she's on. Like, I know, I've gone back and forth with some of my followers on Blue Sky about whether they should pull the trigger and put the belt on her, and
yes,
even to this moment, see, I don't, because her ring work still isn't really there at the level of a champion. Like, I mean, if I can't justify having Harley go over for the belt after those two incredible matches that Mercedes had with Statlander, where the title didn't change hands. I can't bring myself to do it. But what I would do is I would make it come real close and have Mercedes win, but immediately powder from the ring, clutching her belt as if she escaped by the skin of her teeth. Make her look really, really good in defeat and keep building that momentum, and then have the story be finally give her some momentum with a series of wins and work her way back up to the belt and then win it. I feel like I know it's Australia, but as long as you have Tony win at the end, they will probably accept literally every other Australian losing on that card. As long as Tony wins. I think that's the way to go.
I think that she should win for the same reason that Jey Uso should win the title at WrestleMania. Because she's over and everybody's into it. Everybody. Nobody has anything bad to say about Harley Cameron. There is a split crowd on Mercedes. There are people who love her, and there are people who think they spend way too much time on her. I'm one of the latter.
Yeah, you and I are not going to agree on
we don't agree on that, but
which is fine. Which is fine.
I think Harley
guys?
should.
Guess what, guys? This is how you have a conversation that's civil when you disagree upon wrestling.
Yeah.
You state your case. You say, this is why I think this. You say, we can agree to disagree. We shake hands virtually because we're not in the same room. And then we move on. This is how discourse should be about wrestling. Don't be the opposite, please. It's so tiring, guys. You have no idea. It's tiring you out and you don't even realize it. Imagine how tiring it is for us to see that on our timelines all the time. It's exhausting.
Yes.
And that's all I'll say about it because I don't want to be a bug. But in any case, Harley comes out. She's going to sing some songs. She's an actually talented singer. So it goes over well. It's kind of funny how few good singers are actually in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd think that just percentage-wise, more would be good singers. But, like, you have Harley, and then you have Max Friedman, and then that's, like, it. I'm not gonna count Jericho. No, he's not really a good singer. He's fine for what he does, but he's not an actually good singer. Like,
no,
he can carry a tune, I guess, but more often than not, when somebody's singing and wrestling, and maybe this is a WWE thing because of Vince's penchant for making people embarrassed, but usually it's somebody who's singing poorly to get heat,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to well to get cheers. So, to see somebody like Harley get over with her singing is refreshing, actually. But yeah, she comes out, she has her guitar, but then Mercedes comes out to crash the party. Harley deftly avoids dropping the C-bomb.
Yes.
Which apparently in Australia, if we have any Australian listeners, you can probably confirm this, but the feeling that I get, the impression that I get is that it's not nearly as dirty a word in Australia as it is in the States.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it is in the UK either,
No.
from what I understand. Although I think it's still dirtier in the UK than it is in Australia.
It's a term of familiar affection.
Yeah. But yeah, here it's like the ultimate dirty word. You just don't say it.
Yeah, you say that to my wife and she will punch you.
Yeah, especially around if you're a man and you say it, especially around women, even if it's not aimed at them directly. Yeah, that's the ultimate dirty word. You don't say it. She definitely avoided it. But yeah, eventually, Mercedes actually feels the wrath. And, Harley cracks her with the microphone, which finally gives Mercedes some impetus to say yes to the challenge. And so that is official for Grand Slam in Brisbane. And although I don't want to see Harley win just yet, I am excited for the match to see, because that's a decided step up in competition.
Yeah.
Like, if she can hang with Mercedes and Mercedes can do her part to make her look credible, I think that is the ultimate test, even if she doesn't win the belt there, as to what her trajectory is going to be and should be. Yeah. So I'm really excited for Harley to pass that test, because she's passed pretty much every other test up to this one. So, with flying colors.
Yeah.
She's a ventriloquist. She got ventriloquism over in wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you could say that?
Right.
I never thought I would be uttering that sentence.
No.
Okada is late for his one-on-one or face-to-face interview with Buddy Matthews. He's there. He starts talking. And then Okada comes in and he takes his time and gets his water. He gets clipped up with a microphone. But Matthews basically takes over the interview and he's like, "You want to know what I'm about?" And this. We're gonna find out in Brisbane if you have what it takes to hang with me, because you've been avoiding me this entire time. And then he calls him a bitch again. And then Okada says, like, he basically all but says, "That's my line. Stop stealing my line." Next up was another squash match, but it was Dustin Rhodes. I love Dustin. Fine. That's fine. He gets a mic and essentially cuts the same promo that he cut on Dynamite. So it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything. But next week in Austin, Texas, it's going to be Dustin versus MJF. So that's looking like a good Dynamite card.
Yeah.
Match after that, Penelope Ford versus Thunder Rosa. It was okay. It wasn't like groundbreaking or anything. I like Penelope, but like there's something missing. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's something missing there. Like, I mean, she could be more emotive.
Yeah.
Like, she kind of has like a blank face, a blank look on her face throughout most of the match until she gets to the part where she's licking her opponent's faces for some reason. But yeah, Tijuana Bomb ends it with for in Thunder Rosa's favor. Megan Bayne comes out afterwards and distracts Thunder Rosa. Ford attacks her from behind and sets her up for Bayne to hit her with a modified F5, and which looks to be her finish.
Yeah.
And that's it. Second women's match, Mariah May, glamorous invitational. She beats a local lady with the Mayday, which is notable because she hasn't actually won with anything other than the Storm Zero since she won the belt. So I feel like that's notable. She's essentially reclaiming her identity after Tony stole it from her. Afterwards, though, she's got a shawl and she's got the unconscious or barely conscious local girl whose name I guess is Shay Carmichael. I'm reading here. But she's got the lipstick and she like smears it all over her face. She puts the black shawl around. You know, essentially she's trying to make her look like Tony Storm. And the gear that she was wearing looks a little bit like what Tony Storm was wearing. You know, so it was implied that she picked this person in particular so that she could do this and dress her up like Tony Storm afterwards. But out of the back comes the final piece of this story that was missing. Luther's back.
Luther. He got a
in
pop
full
too.
in full Butler. He's got a tray with with something covered on it. He comes up to her. You know, Mariah leaves Ms. Carmichael behind her, and goes up to confront Luther on the apron. He uncovers the thing, and it's the bloody shoe, and it freaks her out. And she goes to kind of she spits in his face, I think is what it was, and she turns around to, I guess, continue beating up Ms. Carmichael. But all of a sudden, as if by magic, she's transformed into timeless Toni Storm herself, who gives just the biggest, most mischievous grin possible as she's being like held by the hair, and she kicks the crap out of Mariah May for a little bit and teases the Storm Zero on the steps on the outside, but Mariah just retreats. This feud is the hottest thing they have going, and it's definitely, it has to main event. It has to main event Grand Slam.
Oh, has to. No question.
Final match tonight was Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. The opening promos that they did was just those two. Mark said, bring the whole family. I don't care. I'll eat them all up. And Fletcher was like, I don't need any of them. They're all staying in the back. I can, you beat me in the Continental Classic in a fluke. On your best day, I'm still better than you. They had a great match. Briscoe's busted open early from hitting the turnbuckle. The cutthroat driver, was avoided. Brainbuster kicked out of. Froggy Bow threw a table on the outside that had been set up earlier, and then a Froggy Bow on the inside directly after that, and Kyle Fletcher kicks out.
Oh.
Huge, gasp from the audience. Nobody could believe it. It looked like he was going for the cutthroat driver again, but Fletcher held onto the ropes. Briscoe thinks about going up for a top rope J driller, but Fletcher gets out and connects with a few kicks to the face. Those cool, nobody does that running kick to the face like Fletcher. That form is just different than anybody else's. It looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hits the Brainbuster for the win. And that was it. I thought it was a great show. Top to bottom, both Dynamite and Collision were real good this week. I can't really complain about too much. Little nitpicky things here and there. But that's it.
Yep. Pretty much. Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's it. So I guess all that's left to do is, Yeah.
We're gonna do it like the pros do and call it in the ring.
All right, this is our Call in the Ring segment. Obviously, for those who are new to the show, this is our freeform segment. It's different every week. We talk about something, whatever we kind of feel like talking about, wrestling related. This week I was inspired by the Toni Storm segment on Dynamite, where she just was spot on in her imitation and impersonation of Mariah May. And it got me to thinking about all the other times that there have been impersonations in wrestling. It's almost a trope in and of itself, honestly. And it takes many forms. There's the what we saw on Wednesday, where it was to get under somebody's skin and get a one-up on them in a mind game. There are some where it's to cover for somebody else, as to kind of trick a referee or an opponent. There's also just to fool an audience. It kind of goes in a lot of different directions. So I wanted to talk about probably the most obvious one in recent memory is probably the Bella's use of twin magic. It's easy when you're identical twins to get away with that. If you're interested in wrestling as a profession and you're an identical twin, do it. You have a built-in gimmick that is marketable anywhere. Twin magic is always usable. It's always usable. It's always valuable. It doesn't even matter if you're good wrestlers or not, because the heat you can get off of the use of twin magic is precious, because so few people can actually pull it off.
Yep.
And an individual's thoughts about how the Bellas were as wrestlers, notwithstanding, they rode that gimmick, all the way up until Nikki Bella decided to get implants, and it just wasn't practical to do it anymore because they didn't look like each other anymore.
Right.
Like that's really the only reason they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Because Brie didn't want to get implants like her sister.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And it worked more often than not. And you usually think about it as a heel tactic, but it works for them in a babyface role too. It's all about like setting up the circumstances. Babyfaces can get away with cheating as long as the heels have cheated first, because it's seen as justice as opposed to gaining an unfair advantage.
Right.
Fight fire with fire, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't the first twins to do that, but I think they were probably the ones who had the most success with the imposter based gimmick.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah, because they use it all the time.
Yeah. Literally
It's
like
constant.
every match.
Yeah.
Babyface or heel, they use it like literally every match until Nikki got bigger boobs.
Pretty much.
It's funny though. Like I think that probably the earliest that I can think of an imposter gimmick was probably the Killer Bees.
Yeah.
So for like our younger audience members, that in the 80s there was a tag team in the WWF called the Killer Bees. They wore yellow and black like bees. It was Jumpin' Jim Brunzell and B. Brian Blair, who the Iron Sheik hated. And their gimmick was they didn't look like each other at all, but they looked enough like each other physically, like from the neck down, that during a specific point of the match, they would put on masks to fool the referee into who was the legal man and who wasn't. So like you cover your face and you essentially look the same, and it's like that works most. I think the funny thing was I think they were mostly baby faces during their run, but that's really more of a heel gimmick.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, if that was my idea for a gimmick, I wouldn't run babyface.
Right.
It's like you were actively trying to deceive a referee. Not just your opponents, but the referee as well. Like that's a heel thing. That's not a babyface thing. Who decided that was a babyface thing?
Right. No idea. But yeah, a lot of baby faces tend to use it. I think even when the Renegades were faces a little bit during Dark and Elevation, they did it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot about the Renegades. But yeah, Robin's the one that's still healthy, right? It's
Yeah, I think so.
What's her sister's name? I can't remember her sister's name. I feel bad about it, but she's the one.
Yeah.
She got injured.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were doing twin magic too. And then there were like the Blue Brothers, who were the Harris twins essentially, and they didn't really, they were big and bruisey, and they didn't really rely on the gimmick too much, but they every once in a while they did it. Whether they had big shaggy hair or no hair, it didn't matter.
Yeah. Mosh and Thrasher did it.
Which was dumb because they didn't look enough like each other.
No,
to really
they didn't at all. No, but it worked. But they did it. Yeah.
They did it though. Then so like there's the twin magic, but there's also like the actual like I am posing as this other person.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have several people in my mind that fit this description, but I have talked too much already without letting you speak. So I want you to discuss that.
Well, I mean, as far as someone impersonating someone else, what's better than someone impersonating themselves?
Ooh.
Like when Sting impersonated Sting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would we have gotten that if it wasn't for NWO Sting as he became known?
Right? Yeah. So we had NWO Sting who was impersonating Sting. And then at some point.
That was a great angle, by the way.
Yeah.
That was a great angle.
And then at some point, Sting ends up in the ring with the NWO dressed as NWO Sting, and he pulls off the plastic mask the other guy always wore, and he's got the same paint on underneath the plastic mask. And he goes to whooping everybody's ass with a baseball bat, as Sting did at that time. But like, dude, just like the pure look of terror and sheer surprise on their face, coupled with the immaculately loud pop from the crowd, that they're like, oh, it's really Sting. Holy shit. It was at the time truly surprising. I think they redid that spot in AEW recently, like right before Sting retired.
They did it a couple of times, I think.
But yeah, the original,
for the nostalgia of it.
The original's always the best. So that's the first one in my head. When I think of like impersonators, I'm like, oh yeah, Sting impersonated himself. Or Sting impersonated someone who was impersonating him.
Yeah. I think that's the only instance that I can think of where somebody impersonated themselves. But it was like Tropic Thunder. I'm a dude playing another dude.
Yeah. I'm a dude disguised as a dude dressed as another dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But there are plenty more examples though. There's like one of my favorites is when Dean Malenko dressed up as Cyclope. Because he couldn't get to WCW Cruiserweight Champion Chris Jericho. He had lost his chance to face him again. And Jericho wouldn't give him another title shot. But there was this Cruiserweight Battle Royal, and it was won by, of all people, Cyclope, who was... Most of the mass luchadors in WCW were on the undercard of the division. This was like bottom rung on that ladder.
Yeah, like
nobody gave a crap about Cyclope.
No,
they're like, oh, this is just some J-Bron. Like yeah. What the heck is he doing? He gets in the ring and he starts just kicking Jericho's rear end, and he takes off the mask like, oh, it's Stinko Malenko. And it got over huge. It was a great moment.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed that one.
Put him in a cloverleaf and like, wait a minute, that's not Cyclope. That's not Cyclope. I know that holds. No, it was. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah.
But then there are times where it doesn't work so great though.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about SummerSlam 1995?
Oh, do we got it? I mean, if you want.
I mean, I feel like we can't broach this subject without talking about it, though. Like, it's one of the most infamous examples of an imposter storyline.
Yes, talk about it. I will add my...
Be my guest.
Man, do we gotta?
I love how reticent you are to talk about this. Was it that trauma forming for you?
A little bit, yeah.
It was bad. It was WWF in 1995. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Wait, was it 95? It might have been 94.
I think it might have been 94 because I'm looking to make sure that I'm... Oh, yeah, it was 94.
It was 94. That's right, because this main evented over the steel cage match, despite the fact that it definitely should not have.
Undertaker and Undertaker. Faker Taker.
Brian.
Underfaker. God. Oh. My gosh. Man, like, I hated this so much while it was happening. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I hate it still. I'm so reticent to talk about it because I have nothing good to say about it.
Brian Lee, rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, rest in peace, Brian Lee. But this was terrible. It was bad, and you should feel bad. Undertaker, me too. It's just one of many other things that Vince McMahon should feel bad about. Whichever producer brought this to him or let this pass without telling him this was a bad idea, you should feel bad also.
Explain to the people what it entailed.
Mostly what I remember about it is that there was a fake Undertaker. And I mean, this is 94, so we're talking 20, 30 years ago. So
the Undertaker had lost a casket match to Yokozuna earlier that year. Yeah. It was an excuse to write him off TV because he was injured. He needed rehab. And in the meantime, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, had said that he was bringing the Undertaker back.
Yeah.
He insisted it was the real Undertaker.
And it was not.
It was not. It wasn't even close.
No, it was very obvious. It was like fake Diesel and fake Razor obvious. Like, we knew it was not the Undertaker.
More imposters, but for a different reason. We'll talk about them in a second.
Yeah. But it was awful. It just, from front to back, like, everything about it, like, everything I remember about it, especially the match. That match was just dog shit. And that's the best way I can describe it. Yeah, it was gross. Yeah, like, this is what I'm reticent to talk about because I'm so negative about it. I hate it. I hated it.
See, like, it's wrestle crap to me. I can laugh about it now. Like, it's like, there was a period of time where they did not know what to do with the Undertaker, so they just had him face freak show after freak show after freak show because for whatever reason they didn't want to push him to the belt. I mean, he wasn't even like the wrestler that we would come to expect. You know, I mean, he would become like one of the most dependable hands on the roster in the main event scene, but he wasn't there yet. He was just stiff zombie Undertaker. You know, he didn't have the MMA influence. He didn't have much of a personality. He was slow and plodding and didn't sell. You know, he did the sit up, but that was, and the rope walk, but that was about it. There wasn't much like exciting about it except his presence.
Yeah.
And Brian Lee tried his best, but like, there's no replacing a Mark Calloway.
No.
There just isn't. Like, you knew instantly when you saw this guy that it was a fake. There was no. This could have worked if it was a more convincing body double.
Yeah.
But the mannerisms were not there. The height he was a good 3 or 4 inches shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the lifts in his boots.
Yeah.
The hair wasn't quite long and thick enough to really hide the fact that his face was different. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. It makes me think of Kane versus Kane as well. The whole May 19th thing. I mean, at least that, you have a mask and a full body.
Yeah, it's a little easier
to cover somebody's face in the cover, but you still need the guy to do it.
Yeah.
And this was done twice. Once as a one-off and once as a full-on angle. And the angle didn't work, but the one-off did. The angle was Gallows, and that didn't work. The mannerisms weren't quite spot on. The wig was atrocious.
Yeah.
The wig was a crime against humanity. It was awful. And it just it was so bad that they binned it pretty much immediately. Like they had their pay-per-view match and then they had a rematch the next night where they literally because nothing is subtle in WWE, they literally ended it by Kane kicking out his doppelganger through the building. It just ended it. But yeah, the one-off that worked, it was during the Attitude Era, and it was the Undertaker actually posed as Kane, and it was convincing.
which shouldn't surprise anybody because A, of the talent level of Mark Calloway, and B, because Kane was just a doppelganger and doing all of Undertaker's stuff anyway, so it was practically the same. So like that's the rare occurrence where the same idea can be done twice and be successful once and unsuccessful the next. Then you've got a whole subcategory of people impersonating others to take the piss out of them.
Yep. Like the NWO and the Four Horsemen.
Yes. Legendary stuff. Like, I was so moved by Arn Anderson, giving up his spot in the Horsemen to Kurt Hennig. And then the next week, they just immediately crap all over it. And, like, I was a kid, so I probably should have been more annoyed at it. But I wasn't smart to the business as like I am now. So all I could focus on was how hilarious Kevin Nash was.
Shining performance by him, for sure.
Not your liver spot, not your dog spot, but my spot. Like, it was... I know Arn hated it. He felt like it was disrespectful. But that's what the NWO did. Like, I mean, it would have been less disrespectful, I'll say, if they didn't have Kurt Hennig turn on him and join the NWO and instead get, revenge for the getting. But, like, that was Bischoff's MO with the NWO, just never ending. Hey, the bad guys get the one up on everybody. Okay, how long is that going to go on?
Forever.
And this guy still thinks that his opinion matters in the year of our Lord 2025. And then there's all the stuff that DX did. There's the one that's regrettable, and then there's the one that's still kind of funny. The one that's regrettable we won't talk about because it's regrettable, but the one that's still kind of funny was them doing.
Oh
Shane
gosh, it was so hilarious.
That was with HBK doing the dance, just constantly doing the Shane thing around with a wig that was ridiculous because it looked more like
Polly Walnut's hair.
Shane's hair wasn't that big and it wasn't that gray, but he got this ludicrous wig on, and Triple H just yells, "Shut up!" and he just takes the back bump. Right in the middle of doing the little shimmy.
It was
great. And then the return, the kind of recall, we got to talk about Rated RKO making fun of DX, because that was during a period of time where DX, if they didn't, specifically Hunter, I would imagine, if they didn't want to look foolish, they were not going to look foolish. And this somehow made it through the cracks. Presumably because it was just too funny not to do it.
It was so hilarious too.
Yeah. I don't know how it slipped through the cracks, but I love Rated RKO making fun of DX. Like, it's, with Sean, or rather, Randy Orton making fun of Sean, impersonating Sean. He has the chaps, he has the wig. He's, doing like all of like the Shawn things with with the praying and the cross and everything. Like, he's just dancing around the ring. It's probably the most entertained I've ever been by Randy Orton. I kind of wish that he would go back to being like goofy like that, since I know he has it in him. Maybe I'd actually like the guy. I mean, I don't know if you were here for the hot take I had last week, but yeah, I kind of went on a little tirade about how I don't get why people like Randy Orton. I'd like him more if he was like this.
Yeah.
And then,
I understand that. I mean, this was hilarious, man. The impersonating Sean by stumbling around holding your bag the whole time. That was just...
Oh, yeah, he's holding his back. And then Edge is Triple H.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. With the prosthetic
huge
nose.
Yeah.
And then he does the water spit gimmick, but as he's holding his arms out, he tilts his head back too far, and he just like falls flat on his back, and then he can't get up.
Oh, it's fantastic. I really, I was laughing my ass off at that whole segment.
Yeah, it's like I said, this was during an era that, you didn't see DX getting made to look like idiots.
No.
Mostly, I imagine, because of Hunter, because, I mean, Sean is perfectly comfortable looking like an idiot.
Yeah.
If you're not convinced of that, look at how he portrayed Shane. I mean, he looked like the biggest idiot on earth.
Right? It was fantastic. The way he did Shane was so good, man. Just the constant movement and everything. Just he had him spot on, except for the Polly Walnuts here, but that was close enough.
I still don't get that wig. Like, where did you come up with that, and why didn't you use that for? I think they may have used the same, 2 copies of the same wig.
Yeah, maybe
for each McMahon. Like,
makes sense.
I'll tell you what, Triple H definitely had Vince down.
Oh yeah. Oh, he had him
absolutely with the walk and everything. It was like, and you knew that was the performance of a man who knew that he could get away with it.
Yeah.
He knew that he was untouchable because he was family at that point.
Yeah. He knew he couldn't get fired, so he took that big old swing.
Might as well. I mean, look, not that Vince, I mean, for all his faults, and he has many faults, but Vince McMahon never, one thing you can't say about him that he was unwilling to take it.
Yeah.
Unlike, say Stephanie, who never really, after a certain point, once she joined the creative team, was like, nope, I'm never looking weak again, ever.
Yeah.
With the exception of that one time where her dad choked her out on pay-per-view, which was odd, and I don't like it.
Yeah, that was real dumb.
It was bad. It was real bad. But that has no bearing on this conversation.
Yeah.
That's not an impersonation. Unless you want to count, the impersonation of Vince McMahon. No, because he was a bad person doing it.
He was pretending to be Ike Turner.
Yeah. Ooh.
I mean, that's the closest thing I can get for it to be relevant here. Terrible.
I mean, you could make a case that he was impersonating a person of a different, let's say, lineage when he was Do-Rag Vince.
Oh my gosh.
My friends like to call that, when he was the ECW champion, he was dressed all in black with the do-rag. My friends called that Cat Burglar Vince.
Cat Burglar Vince.
He kind of looked like a really, really buff cat burglar.
Yeah. I'm going to steal your VCR. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I kind of dig the imposter gimmick every once in a while, especially when it's done so well, like Tony.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
And and to be fair, Mariah before her, like that was in conjunction with the Timeless character. They were working together on a project, I guess you could say, like, because she was Tony's understudy at the time. But like, and whereas this most recent one was in opposition to get under her skin. But like, I mean, both of those women know exactly what they're doing. And this was one of the best, I think, impersonation angles that they've done, because they've worked together for over a year now, which is crazy to think about. They know each other inside and out, so it's like, yeah, no wonder it came off so well.
Yeah, it's
between
really
the talent and the experience with each other. Yeah, I would have been disappointed if it didn't land. Honestly.
Yeah. It's really good, man. It's like the best thing going right now.
Oh, I love her so much. Like, for people who have never wanted to give who want to give AEW a chance but haven't to this point, like, that's what I would point to. That angle right there. Mostly because it's currently ongoing, but it's also because it's the best thing they have ongoing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can talk about Hangman's, definitive angles with Swerve and with Kenny as well, but like currently, Tony and Mariah, the best thing in AEW.
Oh yeah, by far. Yeah. There's a lot of good shit going on too, so that's something.
Yeah. And this week has been my, as it should be. This week was my favorite part of it, despite the fact, the reveal that she was still timeless was epic and probably going to wind up being iconic in AEW lore.
Yeah.
I still think that they built the momentum just right to the point where the one right before the week before their big blow off is my favorite part, with the impersonation and then the shoe and Luther and like the magic where she like floats in where that local talent was just a minute ago without anybody noticing. Like, all this week has been just the best for that angle, and it came because of an impersonation thing.
Yeah,
so
it was really good.
I think it's got to be up there in the upper echelons of the best executed impersonation angles or sketches or skits or segments or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's easily up there on a list of like the best ones, without question. It's just, I mean, I've seen a lot of wrestling history and seen a lot of impersonation acts. That's the first time I believe that, like, if I didn't know any better, I would think that was Mariah May.
Yeah, like it was spot on.
Like a really good cosplayer.
She went complete method actor on her.
Yeah, she went nuts. It was so good, and it's still so good. And I'm so stoked for next Saturday. Like,
I know
it's gonna be awesome.
I know. I'm gonna wake up my kids when she wins the belt back. I'm just gonna be that excited.
Oh yeah, me too, probably. So my kids be like, "What you in here yelling about, man?"
Oh, thank goodness. Honestly, thank goodness. I don't have to work the next day. Like, I took that week off for my birthday because I had the vacation time to burn. Might as well give myself a week for my 40th birthday.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that night, yeah, it's gonna be a long night. It's gonna be a late night because in NBA it comes right on right after the NBA. So it's gonna be a long night, but it will be worth it to see Toni Storm win back that belt in front of her home Australian crowd. So pumped.
It's crazy.
All right.
Dude, it's crazy how pumped I am for it. Like, I'm just, I'm ready for.
My body is ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Like, I just want all these blow-offs. And, I mean, they've been building all this stuff, and a lot of it's getting blown off at this Australia
I'm going to
show.
pause it right before the main event and, like, turn off the lights and put on some candles, set the mood. Because this is what I've been waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
They don't call it a blow-off for nothing.
Oh, my God.
And that's where we'll end it.
Yeah. As always, thank everybody for listening. Thanks for being here week to week. As usual, we will see you next week. Take care of yourself out there. Keep your head up, and we love you.
Love you guys. Peace.
Peace.